Hey guys, it's Matt. Continuing the theme from last week where we looked at the statues, what type of entity in some way needs to be remembered? When you back up and you think about it, all these statues, all these paintings, all these celebrations of all these historical figures, the George Washington, apotheosis of George Washington at the top of the Capitol dome, pictured with Greek and Roman gods, we've been seeing so much of it since we were little tykes that it's just normal in this world. But when you stop and think about it, it's not normal. It's like there's an entity here that needs to be remembered, or whatever is put forth in terms of their image in some way draws a little bit of energy or attention from real people, which they almost need. Don't you sense that? But you know what the greatest news of all time is? Do you need that? Do you care one bit if somebody erects a bust of you or a fresco, whatever that is, or a painting upon your death? My inner knowing says, I don't care one bit. I'm not a type of entity that needs to be remembered like this entity. And by the way, if you didn't read the bottom, that was the bust of Marcus Aurelius. By the way, if you're driving or anything, as usual, you don't need to see these pictures in these presentations. I throw some pictures out here and there. Don't bother to look if you're driving or operating a forklift. Remember we used to call that? What do we call that? We used to call it TPS videos if you're doing your TPS reports. Again, images are not that important in my videos. So that was Marcus Aurelius. He was damn glad to meet you. Marcus Aurelius, he was damn glad to meet you. And I just want to show you here, in case anyone's interested, you can get little busts and little figurines of all these little entities that need to be remembered. If you want to do a personal bust of Marcus Aurelius, use product or coupon code quantum of conscience / entities that need to be remembered, 5% off your little bust. You can glue that to the top of your damn piano. Okay, in part one, we looked at the statues and them using the statues as a way in which they need to be remembered. And if for anybody new, I'm talking about an entity that hangs out in the shadows in the astral plane or something between lifetimes that may need to be remembered, have a certain level of energy maintained in order to come back into another body. I'm saying all this weird, creepy stuff is on the table. I don't know exactly how it works for them, but I'm saying all this is possible. There might be metaphysics as to why that entity needs to be remembered. One last time, I don't want to scare anybody, but if you're listening to this, it's likely you're not that type of entity. You don't need one bit of energy or attention in order to do whatever you need to do in the afterlife or try to come back. Nobody here's trying to come back. So we don't need this. In fact, I don't want, if they offered me to put a bust of Quantum of Conscience, Matt, at the top of the Washington Monument, they offered a head bigger than Mount Rushmore plastered at the top of the Washington Monument, I would say, no, I don't want that. I don't want to be remembered after my death. I don't need to be. This entity does. It's creepy as shit. It's not just the busts and the paintings and the watercolors and the frescoes, whatever that is. They tell you in their own words. James Joyce, quote, "It will keep professors busy for centuries arguing over what I meant, and that's the only way of ensuring one's immortality." Now, was he talking about the nonsense of Ulysses in this quote or the nonsense of Finnegan's Wake? In one book, didn't he create his own language? Joyce just tries to make it overly Oh, the people listening in Ireland are all upset. Oh, they're getting their backs up right now. The Dubliners are getting their backs up. Oh, don't you talk. I'll listen to you, Quantum of Conscience, but I'm an Irish. Don't you talk about my Joyce. Okay, I'm sorry. I know 700 and some pages of Ulysses and Ulysses. What is it? It's somehow it's a representation of Homer's Odyssey, but following the lives of 3 Dubliners over the course of one day. How the hell can following the lives of 3 people from Dublin over the course of one day be interesting to cover 700 pages? Talk about chop wood and carry water. Sorry. So it's probably, he's probably talking about Ulysses. But what's the difference? He says it in his own words. A way of ensuring one's immortality. Keep professors arguing for centuries, arguing over what I meant. Who cares what you meant? And they should have forgotten about what you meant a long time ago. Anyway, I will say one thing. If it is outlining the lives of 3 Dubliners over the course of one day, and it is at all interesting, that's a heck of an accomplishment. You could look at the lives of every Dubliner for 100 years and maybe not find one bit of anything interesting. Went back in and put this disclaimer and relax if you're from Ireland. I pick on everybody. Have you ever heard me pick on New York? How about Philly, my own town? Pick on a Philly accent. I do it to everybody. Come on. I'm unsub, but don't unsub me. Come on, man. You can take it. Let's go back to the statues and busts and monuments for just a moment. News article, quote, Cecil Rhodes statue decapitated in South Africa. The great man of Cecil Rhodes. They're messing with his statue and his legacy in South Africa. I've talked about this individual before several times regarding the diamond monopoly, which was actually funded initially by the Rothschilds through Cecil Rhodes and the diamond cartels, of which to this day it's still one gigantic monopoly, and they create a fake value regarding a diamond. It should be worth a little bit more than a number two pencil, but a little bit less than a yo-yo. A diamond. They manipulate it, and they keep only a small amount on the market when these things are like horse apples. They pull them out of the ground like horse apples. The value of a diamond should probably be between the value of a number two pencil, which has graphite, and a yo-yo. But okay, that's the good work of Cecil Rhodes, and they're defiling the great man. In the last video on statues, we talked about the possibility of the statue or the constant representation of the historical figure in some way getting an energy or a loose energy from the real people that are looking at it or focusing on it. How many times does the bust of Lenin appear around the world, or George Washington? But we also talked about the possibility when the statues are defiled, you would think, well, that hurts them. Well, it might help them the most. What's that? You'd be digging that the most. That's from Pulp Fiction. Cecil Rhodes, when your statue's attacked, you'd be digging it the most. They might have woken him up he might be floating around in some ghostly state in some hidden astral plane, waiting to get in line, waiting to get back into a body. Said, Cecil, wake up! Materialize for a second, dude. They're attacking and defiling your statue. All that sweet ambrosia, negative energy is coming your way. Suck it up and absorb it while you can, Cecil. Then maybe you can get back into a body more quickly. Look at this image I found of a Cecil Rhodes statue. It looks like they have to protect this one with a wire mesh, the way they put bars over their windows on Florence Avenue, Florence and Normandy, and South Central and in North Philadelphia. But is that the same wire mesh that the Double Deuce had? What was it? Not the Jake Gyllendiker Hauler one, the original with Patrick Swayze. The damn blind guy playing the guitar in Roadhouse at the Double Deuce did the damn steel mesh up. People kept trying to throw bottles at the damn band. They would just smash. They used the same steel mesh from the Double Deuce to protect Cecil Rhodes. Look, guys, if you have to go to these lengths to protect the Cecil Rhodes statues in Cape Town and other parts of South Africa, like Johannesburg, maybe just remove the statues. He's gotten enough of people's loose energies through these statues over the years. Give the opportunity to somebody else. Put up Jim Henson statues or something. Just put them on eBay, man. If you have to wrap them in wire mesh, okay, he's gotten enough energy for his little entity. Give it over to somebody else and get those damn statues on eBay. Okay, here's the bust and statue before the memory and the legacy of the great man was so defiled. Look behind him there up top. Columns are cutting part of it off. It says loved and served. He loved and served one thing. He loved and served the diamond trade as the little stooge on behalf of the Rothschilds. This is not in any way an exaggeration. The diamond market that exists today through De Beers, where they've inflated the price of that horse apple, it is primarily responsible, or the responsibility for that abomination goes back to Cecil Rhodes. I would say to the people that try to defile, or actually at this point have defiled the statue, what took you so long? What were you doing the last 100 years? Were you fooled thinking this was a great man? Just now you figured it out? The conspiracy people have been talking about this for 12 years. Cecil, or Mr. Rhodes, can I call you Cecil? If you're listening to me and the words coming out of my mouth from some dark part of the astral plane, again, waiting to get back into a body, I'll just proclaim it once because it is likely you're listening to me, or reanimating your corpse as it's rolling around. Thou art truly a villain. Bill, in terms of the people waiting for me in the light, add this joker to the list. There's wisdom in the Bible. I've given it props on more than one occasion. Leviticus 26:1. Do not make idols or set up an image or a sacred stone for yourselves, and do not place a carved stone in your land to bow down before it. And this isn't even the famous part about graven images from the Exodus. This isn't even the famous one. It's all over the Bible about graven images and do not make idols. And then we have all this sort of thing coming. Uh-oh. graven images. We just don't realize the number of places they've placed themselves, their likeness, their features, their bust, the paintings, the coins, the all over the place. And if you go to places around the world, I mean, if you go to Iraq or say 20 years ago, in every single public building, massive paintings, endless of Saddam Hussein. If you go to Chechnya, Grozny, every time you turn around, it's a picture of the president. It's like all over. If you go to Turkey, it's Ataturk. Ataturk's everywhere. Hey, Ataturk! Ataturk! They're all over the place. There's a weird reason for this, guys. It's not just Matt, it's ego. No, it's not just ego. Even when the president, like, for example, Chechnya is still alive, or when Saddam Hussein was still alive, a picture of him on every single building. It's not just ego. We'll talk about it, but let's stay with the image, the graven image that's before us now. And somebody's saying, well, Matt, this can't apply to, these are the great men that served this country. Sorry, I don't differentiate. It's pretty simple. If this system here feels the need to push their graven images of anybody, I don't care how patriotic, how heroic, if this system keeps pushing out that image, that bust, that painting, that fresco, that likeness, that coin, then that person, willingly or unwillingly, served the not nilk. Remember the rule of opposites. The last thing anybody should want is to become the fifth carving on Mount Rushmore. I couldn't think of anything worse in the history of the world. If you've served the not nilk where they're going to make room for a fifth, not the Three Stooges, the Five Stooges, it's the last thing a real person should ever want. Leave this world, depart through the moment of death, no graven images, not remembered in any way, that's no ties, no links, no Jacob Marley chains. That's what you want. Hey, I have a YouTube channel. A lot of people come and go. There's millions of minutes here and millions of minutes there. Well, I got to do what I got to do. Anonymity, me being out like Thoreau in the woods. I went out to live deliberately and to be by myself. I can't talk truth out in the woods and living. Maybe I'll do that as soon as I can. But for now, I've got to be on YouTube. But I don't want any link to this world, and I actively, whenever I notice, try to cut ties, contracts. I think I've cut them all. I mean, I've been doing this for years. Just as an example, the opposite of that is when the not nilk wants to give you a key to the city, or the ultimate aspect of that is to carve your face into a coin or into the side of a mountain. Oh boy, if you've served the not nilk in that regard, who knows what the consequences are for that, right? No consequences, people. Look at this. Let me describe this to you if you're driving. The top left of this image shows Mount Rushmore out the window. It's like the Mount Rushmore Museum or Tourist Bureau or something. People are inside, like with their phones. There's a copy of Mount Rushmore, like made out of paper mache or something, in a little Mount Rushmore museum. But the damn thing's right out the window. Why would you be inside looking at the little one with a paper mache one with your phones and read when the damn thing's out the window? Go look at the real thing. See, I could see if I went to Valley Forge Park, which is like 80,000 miles away from the real Mount Rushmore in the middle of nowhere I was going to say South Carolina, but that's metropolis compared to South Dakota. I could see them putting one of these Mount Rushmores up in Valley Forge Park because that's all you could get. That's as close as most of us will get. The real thing's out the window, and people are inside looking at the little one. Oh, boy. Who decided to do this if you maintain the little Mount Rushmore Museum and gift shop? Is it, here's what we're going to do. We're going to create Mount Rushmore here in the gift shop. George Washington is going to be about 20 feet tall. But the real thing, sir, the real thing is right out the window. You want us to recreate it here at 1/16 the scale when the real thing is right out the window and all somebody has to do is turn around and look at the real thing? Yeah. How much is this going to cost the museum and gift shop? $2 million? One last thing on Mount Rushmore. This is actually a great IQ test for the American dummy on the street. You just say to him, who's on Mount Rushmore? Now, you can't just say who's on it without showing him a picture. Nobody's going to get that. I mean, I don't think I would even get that without the picture. You show them the picture, and you let the American dummy on the street act. Oh, they're going to get the first. Well, that's George Washington. Oh, yes, very smart. Who's that? Next one. Oh, they would know. I mean, that's where they would stumble on the second one. It's Thomas Jefferson. They would know Lincoln on the right, of course, the American dummy. But that one there, that guy hiding in the back with that big mustache, a big piece of food stuck in it, almost nobody on the street would get that. I would say 90% of the American dummy on the street wouldn't get that. And it's Teddy Roosevelt. It's not FDR. It's Teddy. What the heck is Teddy Roosevelt doing on Mount Rushmore? Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln. I can see that. We're talking about the big boys here. What the hell is Teddy Roosevelt, his little Rough Riders? What the hell did he ever do? Teddy, who'd you pay off to get on Mount Rushmore? It makes no sense to me how he got his ugly mug up there. A few minutes back, I mentioned Chechnya. These leaders of Chechnya, they put their pictures and painting up all over Grozny. I haven't been there myself, but I've watched a few videos of tourists going in there, and I'm fascinated by Grozny and Chechnya, not just because it was rebuilt from rubble in about 5 to 7 years, pristine streets, gigantic mosques, some of the largest in Europe, and it was rubble 5 to 7 years back when they can't even fix a bridge down the road here. It takes 20 years to fix the Bettswood Bridge going from King of Prussia, Pennsylvania into Norristown. So it fascinates me for a lot of reasons, but the point is, let's stick to the point here. This guy, I'm going to mispronounce the name. This is not a guy you want to piss off. This guy is hardcore, was involved in both wars. He's half nuts. Ramzan Kadyrov. I can't pronounce it. I'm sorry. And his father, Ahmed, is it? His father, the first leader of Chechnya, he's been dead for many years. Now it's Ramzan. He's going to build, I would say put him in the light with bicycle chains, but he's still alive. So maybe if he's still alive, so don't put him in the light, Bill. I got enough people waiting for me in the light, but you don't look. I'm not trying to piss this guy off. This guy he'll look at me like Salman Rushdie, like my own version of the satanic verses here. Put something out on me. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to piss this. This is the last guy you want to piss off. I mean, talk about pissing off the not milk. Matt, now you can never vacation in Grozny. That's true. That's one thing that I planned on doing this summer. Look at this. It appears these minions will go to great lengths to be immortalized and always be remembered, at least until they get back into a body. It says here on the right, face cast bust of Sigourney Weaver, $106.68. If anybody's interested, it says only 8 left, and one's in somebody's cart already. They always do that at Etsy. There's one in the cart. There's only one left. You better beat the person that put it in the cart. Matt, are you a big Etsy? Well, I had to go to Etsy to get my Russian stove doors. That's what they're only one of a kind. So it's who put the Russian stove door in a cart? If you're going to put it in a cart, buy the damn thing. Well, anyway, anybody want to spend $106 and get Sigourney Weaver's it's not life size, is it? Well, it's realistic. You could put it in your bed and tuck the covers up under its chin. How'd you like to wake up next to that in the morning? Matt, that ain't nothing. Once they put most of us into a digital environment, you can live with Sigourney Weaver. It'll be like realistic. You can wake up next to your digital Sigourney Weaver. She can go make you digital eggs in your digital little world where you're, I guess, some sort of Zynga farmer or something. And this is not now all you can do with the head. You can tuck it under your covers. You can pretend Sigourney Weaver's in your bed with you. You can talk to it. Sigourney, would you like breakfast in bed, sweetie? You can pretend it. But once they put us in the digital environment, then for just a small licensing fee, say $19, $20, you can live with Sigourney Weaver. Of course, there's an annual fee involved. Guys, I needed to insert this. We finally have to do this. We need another name. I started recording the next segment, and I said, okay, guys, enough fun. It's time to get serious. Let's get serious. And with this word magic, no, Levette is likely right that their astrology is entirely based around, she says, they've picked the star Sirius, Sirius, along with Jupiter. According to Levette and some others, it's Jupiter, not Saturn. Does it really matter? I don't think it matters to us how their creepy astrology is based. But I've looked at this in the past. There's no good synonyms, probably on purpose, for Sirius. So we say, let's get serious. It's some sort of word magic. We need to make every affirmation say, I don't want to get serious. I want to get away from Sirius. So what am I supposed to say, though? See? Let's hear the synonyms. So, okay, it's time to get serious, guys. Let's get serious. Let's get deliberate. That's what it says I should use instead. Okay, guys, let's get deliberate. What? That sounds stupid. Let's get genuine. Might as well do Olivia Newton-John. Let's get physical. Let's get, it says here, honest. Time to get honest, guys. Let's severe. Okay, guys, let's get, not serious, but let's get severe. Let's get sincere, thoughtful. See, they don't give you. It's word magic. They want you to say, It's time to get serious, or let's get serious. Let's just do the Olivia Newton-John. Every time I mean this, I'll say, let's get physical, or what else does she say that's creepy in that song? Doesn't she say, let's get animal? What the hell does that mean? Olivia, rolling around, rolling around, rolling around. Strong match, sober. Okay, guys, time to get sober. Well, a lot of us are drunk no matter when these videos come out, but that's actually somewhat appropriate. Weak matches, austere, bound, businesslike, cold, sober, funeral. Let's get funeral. Let's grave. You know what we need? We need a hobo code for it's time to get serious. I'm not using that word magic anymore. Every time I used it, I was tricked into using it. I rescind every bit of energy and attention I ever gave to the word. We need a completely new hobo code. Guys, this is really strange. I just sat here for 5 minutes or more, much more, and I can't come up with anything. It's like I'm completely blocked from I can't replace the word. I will look to your comments, guys. So you obviously know the word I want to replace, and of course we say it's SERIOUS, but what is it? Are they homophones when they're it's what is really being said? So we need a hobo code, guys. So for the next segment, insert hobo code. It's time to get back to what the video is intended and what was intended before we started making fun of everything. I'll look to your comments for a hobo code to replace let's get serious now. Okay, not the greatest image to use if we're trying to leave the laughs behind, but returning to the reason for this video, which was part 2 of the statue video of last week. Not just talking about this topic because we can have fun with it, which we can have a lot of fun with it, but if you back up and you look at all the ways, the graven images, they put themselves in the paintings and the frescoes and the apotheosis at the top of the Capitol building and gigantic statues on horses and on coins. There's a reason for this, guys, and it's unfortunately, here we go again, but can you look at Not Nilk without saying there's a dark reason for everything they do? It's an entity trying to block your spiritual progression. That's dark. Of course it is. You can't look at it without acknowledging the darkness. So what is it trying to do for itself by putting forth all these statues? I mean, my friend Tony or your friends or family would just think this is ridiculous. All this commemoration, at the very minimum, even if you take the potential louche issue out or a way for it to extract energy, and you don't buy any of that, it's at least here to perpetuate a story, to back up a historical narrative that may or may not be correct, and likely in many cases is not correct. So at the minimum, it's still part of Not Nilk fraud. I mean, I'm not saying, okay, there's Stalin. Does it mean Stalin wasn't the president or whatever, the dictator of Russia during a time when potentially millions of Ukrainians were starved out and all the other nasty things that were done? And, there probably really was a guy named Stalin that did a lot of nasty, nasty things. I don't think the statues are always about faking history, but it's about laying down a narrative, a historical narrative that they really, really need it to be believed in. So, look, I think it's more than that, or I wouldn't be making these 2 videos. If you back up and look at reality, the amount of busts and paintings, it's just too much. Too many times Ataturk is mentioned and positioned all over Turkey. Too many times George Washington is all over everything in the United States. I think it's more than just solidifying or hardening the cement on a story. I think there's an illusion aspect to it, an energy aspect to it. Again, this entity is not the same as us. We'll never truly understand it, but I think there's some of this stuff going on here, and it's always interesting to notice the difference in entities, the difference between what this thing is and what people like you and I are. And people would yell at me, Matt, don't use person. That's a legal term that degrades. You know what? What matters? The intention behind. I shouldn't be so worried about using the word or not using the word serious, but I think it's time to replace it. It is time to replace that. But through intention or just through simple affirmation, you can remove, if we gave energy to that word or any word, we can remove it. Why? Because we said so. That's the whole point of why it plays a trick. Once the trick can be exposed, you can take everything back in an instant. Why? Because we said so. Thanks for listening.